This podcast is brought to you by Al Jazeera.
He met her in the fall. He took her to a movie. And when they done it all, he took her.
Hello and welcome to the Fabulous Picture Show. I'm Amanda Palmer, and this week we're joined by filmmaker Beadie Finzi, and we'll be screening her inspiring new documentary, Only When I Dance.
But so did I.
It's about aspiring ballet dancers from a whole other world.
Só falta se colocar assim, dança clássica não é para o negro.
And for director Beadie Finzi, it's not all about tutus and tights.
I'm an underpants girl myself.
Also on the show, a classic love story, boy meets inflatable girl. And later, he's a clown actually, but don't worry, he's good, not evil. But first, New Zealand's Jane Campion is the only woman director to ever win the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, and she's one of only 3 to ever be nominated for an Academy Award. And now her latest film, Bright Star, is being lauded as one of her best.
I do not know how elastic my spirit might be.
Taking its name from a popular sonnet by John Keats, Jane Campion's Bright Star depicts the tragically short romance between the British poet, who died at 25,
Mr. Keats.
and his neighbour Fanny Brawn. Campion tells the story through the adoring eyes of Fanny, who becomes his muse.
You know, I was careful when I wrote the script to discover Keats through Fanny and fall in love with him as a human being, and then just slowly build a fascination with what he was actually doing.
What pleasure I might have in living here if the remembrance of you did not weigh so upon me.
Abby Cornish, who plays Fanny, prepared for the role by reading Keats' numerous love letters.
Unfortunately, Keats destroyed all of Fanny's letters to him before he passed away, which is just, you know, it's so heartbreaking, and so you can only imagine what was in those letters.
I almost wish we were butterflies and lived but 3 summer days. 3 such days with you I could fill with more delight than 50 common years could ever contain.
The intense and volatile romance drives the film. Impressive, considering Campion didn't audition her leads together before casting them.
She just thought, that person's interesting, and had some sense that there might be a chemistry.
I had such a dream last night. I was floating above the trees, with my lips connected to those of a beautiful figure.
Whose lips? Were they my lips?
From the moment I met him, it was just very open, very connected, and he's such a gorgeous person, it's impossible not to love him.
Relationships are complex and intimately conveyed in Campion's films.
Shall I kiss you goodnight?
And her heroines are compelling but unconventional.
She says no. She says she'd rather be boiled alive by natives than get back on the stinking tub.
Her Oscar-winning The Piano focuses on a mute, repressed woman who uses the instrument as a form of self-expression. Campion's biopic, An Angel at My Table, about famous New Zealand author Janet Frame,
But you've always wanted to be a teacher. I'm going to be a writer.
also had a vulnerable female at its core.
You haven't been feeling all that well lately, and, well, we thought that you might like a little rest.
No, I'm fine now, thank you.
Frame was misdiagnosed with schizophrenia and spent 8 years in hospital, enduring over 200 shock treatments. As one of the most celebrated female directors ever, Campion is inevitably judged by her gender as well as by her output.
I don't expect to influence the way of the world or the politics of gender. This is supposed to be a big year. There's 3 women in competition, and we'll do the maths. That's 3 out of 20. But, you know, sometimes it makes me feel sad.
A comic book about a full-sized inflatable doll coming to life might not seem like an inspiration for one of this year's sweetest and saddest romances, but one of Japan's most interesting directors has achieved the improbable with their doll. Hirokazu Korieda's adaptation of a popular manga or Japanese comic book depicts an inflatable doll who takes on a life of her own, and who then ditches her middle-aged owner when she falls in love with a video store clerk.
何かお探しですか?
Obviously, this is a love story, but as I was making the film, I thought about the emptiness that people carry and how we were able to fulfill that. That eventually became the underlying theme of the narrative.
空っぽなの。
これは奇遇だね。私も同じさ。空っぽだ。特にこんな町に住んでる人たちは君だけじゃないよ。
It comes as a breath of fresh air for Korieda, who won international acclaim with riveting dramas that dealt with loss and memory. Nobody Knows was based on real events that shook Tokyo in 1988. It explores the lives of 4 abandoned children as they try to survive on their own.
おいしい？うん、おいしい。
多々良公子さん、つまりあなたですが、昨日お亡くなりになりました。どうもご愁傷様です。
Afterlife depicts the recently deceased as they must choose just one memory to retain for eternity.
それを3日間でお願いします。
そして皆さんに選んでいただいた思い出を私たちスタッフができる限り映像で再現させていただきます。
Afterlife is not wholly original. I met many elderly people in my research and asked if their stories could be incorporated into the film.
この辺からさ、小風呂下がるんだから、本当にもうね、あれよ、こんな感じで、もう何人かこう遊んでたわけ。
Having directed 8 documentaries before delving into fiction, Korieda is known for his high-bred approach to storytelling.
I don't have a specific style, but there is one thing in terms of attitude that I don't want to change. Something that has always been my style since making documentaries. It's the way I gaze, how I look at these characters, people. And of course, my gaze becomes the camera's gaze. And that attitude I'll probably stick with.
何？
誕生日。
誕生日？
彼女がこの世界に生まれた記念の日。
He's Miloud Ukili, a French clown who uses his art to win the trust of vulnerable street kids in post-communist Romania. Teaching them circus skills and self-respect. Parada is based on the true story of the French-Algerian busker who visited Romania's capital Bucharest in 1992 and ended up discovering his destiny.
Ça, c'est le plus petit masque du monde.
This is the smallest mask in the world, but it works very well. If you laugh at me and I laugh at you, together we can laugh about everything else. We can become friends. We can talk about anything.
Many of the children cast by director Marco Pontecorvo came from the street.
I was passing in front of this Parada center and there were a jeep, destroyed jeep. When I saw 3 children sleeping inside, I knocked on the jeep and that's how I found one of them.
Today, Ukili's troupe tours Europe and provides support for hundreds of street kids.
I want to show, okay, this is a fantastic, happy ending, modern fairy tale, but the phenomenon is quite big and difficult to solve. It's going much, much, much better than '92, but it's still there, not only in Bucharest.
In part two, we're screening Only When I Dance. I have the documentarian here. This is Beadie Finzi. You found yourself in Rio making a documentary about ballet, but not just about ballet.
And in the end, it was an epic story of two families fighting against their odds to get their kids out of that city and out of the favela that they live in.
It's beautiful. It's about two characters, a boy and a girl. Their names are
Ilan and Isabella.
And we had a window into their lives, and they're super talented. They made me feel very untalented, but I can deal with it. We'll find out more about them in part two. See you then.
He met her in the fall.
Hi everybody, welcome to this special screening of Only When I Dance. And let me introduce this fine woman here. This is Beadie Finzi, the filmmaker. Hi Beadie, tell us about your film.
Only When I Dance tells the story, the journey of two remarkable young kids in what will turn out to be the most pivotal year of their lives as they try to dance their way out of the favelas of Rio. But it is at its root a story of family and what a family will do to enable a child to realise their dreams.
And on that note, enjoy the film. I know you will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the most notorious slum districts of Rio, filmmaker Beadie Finzi knew she was onto something special when she met the tremendously talented and determined Erlan.
Essa é a minha maior vontade, de sair daqui para lugar melhor e sossegado e levar os meus pais junto comigo.
The charming and wistful Isabella.
Uma companhia clássica, de repente, seria um sonho, né?
And their formidable mentor, Marissa.
Eu tenho meus filhos, eu tenho meus netos, eu tenho minha família. A dança significa a minha vida.
The film charts a crucial year of competition for her precocious protagonists.
E vocês têm de amar a dança para vocês poderem conseguir ir até o final.
Eu sinto assim uma responsabilidade muito grande porque o que acontecer essa noite vai decidir o meu futuro.
It also paints a touching portrait of family and friends as they struggle with institutional prejudice.
Só falta se colocar assim, dança clássica não é para o negro.
Parece que ela foi criada
dança clássica
só para burgueses.
É para os europeus. Dança clássica é para quem tem condições.
And the bittersweet burden of great potential amidst crippling poverty.
Alcançando aquilo que vai nos deixar feliz. Por isso todo o esforço foi feito. Maravilhoso.
Now, Beadie, you have been a documentarian since 1994, and you'd certainly ventured into the world of ballet before. What drew you to this particular story?
The opportunity to tell a story of hope, of real ambition, of dream, really, I mean, like an extraordinary dream.
Sempre vou correr atrás, batalhar bastante para conseguir ir para fora e conseguir também assim dar uma vida melhor para os meus pais.
You know, this wasn't some sort of middle-class angst about maybe I'll manage it, maybe I won't. I mean, everything, but everything was stacked against them. And that to me was kind of epic.
A vitória é uma coisa que, para uns, ela vem no berço de ouro e para outras, você é que vai entrar dentro desse berço.
Filmmaking, as we know, is always a collaborative process. I mean, there's so many people behind the scenes that are involved, and we're, you know, very lucky to have your producer here.
Yes, the producer, Giorgia Lasavio.
Georgia, let me come to you for a moment. So you found yourself in Rio and you were fascinated by the social projects.
Yeah, exactly. The idea was everything in the favela is always like you just hear the bad things, and actually there are some great social projects. The idea to show that there was good things in the favela, not just bad things, and what if you have talent, what do you do?
You needed two pivotal characters, and you were there for 3 years, is that right?
Well, exactly, the research process, the kind of trying to crack the ideal characters took about 3 years.
3 years, over 3 years.
Kind of incredibly impressed by the sort of tenacity of Georgia, at just keeping going until we found just the right kids at just that right moment, because this was the year where they would have the first possibility of performing before an international audience, and therefore the first chance they might have of kind of jumping out.
Eu estou levando o Irlan e Isabela para uma das competições mais importantes no Brasil.
Once we had them, it was like, that's it. We just got to go. We've got to get out now. It was very thrilling.
One of the themes of the film is the struggle of the parents to help support their child financially to achieve their dream.
Eu tentava encher de tudo quanto fosse, sensibilizar a gerência, o subgerente do banco. E isso daí ia me torturando porque eu chegava em casa, olha, eu não conseguia crédito.
Did the families get any fee for actually appearing in the film, which in turn sort of helped with that aim?
No, but the temptation to dip into your own pocket is overwhelmingly strong. But I have a code, and it was certainly the code of the production team, that while we were making the film, that we had to resist that, because actually, to have influenced proceedings, well, it just would have made it into a piece of factual entertainment. It would turn into another kind of show. Did we, at the end of filming, help out Isabella's family? Yes. And it's one of my, ambitions as a consequence of the film that we can help them going forward too, because they're not out of the woods.
Não, foi de tarde. Eu não sei o que aconteceu, não. Só tava dando tiro lá pro outro lado.
You could have easily sort of explored the difficulties of living in the favela. I mean, the favela you were working in is notoriously dangerous, isn't it?
That was something bizarrely we were living with vividly on a day-to-day basis, but actually trying to keep out of the film hugely deliberately. Because actually this is not a story about violence, it's a story about a family.
Boa sorte. Liga, tá?
It was a very emotional and touching piece. I thought it was absolutely fabulous from beginning to end.
Thank you.
I also think you should probably supply some Kleenex with every notepad. But I just want to know, as a filmmaker, what did you take from this experience?
I don't think I've ever been as touched or as moved by a relationship like I was with Ilan and his mum and dad. I don't think I've ever felt such love in a family.
Eu sempre gostei de fazer uma. Aí eu pensei, eu falei, vou fazer o nome do Irlan, e coloquei. Até quando ele chegou, ouviu, falou, pai, tá de brincadeira, né? Falei, eu fiz, pô. Ficou legal.
That is what gives Ilan his core and his strength. I miss them. I miss not being with them.
Eu sempre falei, vou fazer o nome do Irlan por quê? Porque mostrar que eu gosto dele pra caramba, né? Então, vou fazer. E também tô pensando depois fazer um retrato dele aqui.
It must have been difficult when Ilan left.
Yeah, no, I mean, on a personal note, I think that was the most affecting day. I mean, I knew it would be. This boy would never be the same again. He was about to embark on the most extraordinary journey of his own in a new continent with a new career, and that this place would never be the same. Going back home, I just knew I had to get just a pause, a moment with them alone, and then it was as quickly and quietly as we could get away, and leave them in peace. It was incredibly emotional.
And this is the craft of being a good documentarian as well. It's knowing when to turn off the camera as well.
I think one of the most key moments like that was actually when Isabella crashed out of the competition in New York. And I could tell she just needed to burst into tears, but she was trying so hard to keep it together. I made this decision. I could hear people shouting at me, like, what are you doing? I just switched the camera off and I put it down on the ground and I just went over and I gave her a huge hug. And I remember at the time I had a friend with me just going, I'm sorry, what on earth? Are you mad? And it was like, no, we will get the moment tomorrow. It's having the confidence to know when it will come and when is the best moment for that character. Knowing when you've got it, knowing when you've just got the scene and being satisfied. It's judging when to stop, when to put the camera down, when to leave. It's a very invasive process, filming, and I think being terribly sensitive to that is critical. It's what it's all about.
São tantos dias, tantos meses de trabalho, assim, trabalhando para dançar 2 minutos no máximo.
All the weight of his career really was on that, and I felt that. I really felt that there was nowhere to go, and I couldn't believe how quick that 2 minutes went. Did you feel that as well? I was like, it's all over in 2 minutes, and you kept the one shot, which was, I thought, an extraordinary testament to his talent.
You can't take your eyes off him. And the same with the Nijinsky piece, which is my personal favourite in the whole film. You know, where he's wearing the lovely blue underpants. That dance is quite challenging by any stretch of the imagination. I was very against him doing that piece. I thought it was a complete mistake. There were some much more kind of genteel, obvious contemporary pieces he could have danced in that competition. No. He chose the most impossible, angular. I mean, the music, it's a piece of Stravinsky, it's incredibly upsetting and difficult piece of music. And he pulled it off. You know, outstanding.
That's funny. Elan, you're going to ruin my movie.
No, seriously.
You're not allowed to do that one. You can pretty much tell that this woman is an incredibly impassioned filmmaker, and I really feel that you are evidently doing this for all the right reasons. Can we please thank Beadie Finzi here for Only When I Dance?
Thank you very much.
Porque já é no sangue, é uma coisa que já vem de geração em geração. Então, não tem como o brasileiro falar que não sabe. No fundo, ele sabe, às vezes não quer mostrar.
Well, that's it for this fabulous picture show, and I am now going to invite you, Elan, Isabella, and anybody else who we can get on a plane to come to the Doha Tribeca Film Festival and show your film and perform. You don't have to perform.
Not me.
No, we won't do that to you.
Well, we would be incredibly privileged. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It would be amazing to have you, really amazing, and thank you for bringing your extraordinary film. And hope you join us on the next fabulous picture show, or maybe you want to come to the Doha Tribeca Film Festival, October 29 to November 1. See you then.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this film and why?
10 out of 10 for complete inspiration.
You could tell that it was authentic, and that was the beauty of this really well-crafted piece of artistry.
Emotional, funny and entertaining.
It was just overall an amazing film.
I really did feel Elan jumping out of the screen when I saw his dancing.